18.2 Speedy takeoff and crash landing. There is freedom waiting for you on the breezes of the sky. And if you ask, what if I fall? Oh, my darling, what if you fly? Erin Hanson. Opening a relationship feels like jumping out of an airplane for the first time. Thrilling, dizzying, full of possibility, and absolutely terrifying if you don't know how the parachute works yet. It's natural to want to rush into all the new experiences. The parties, the apps, the flirtation, the novelty, the fantasy of more. But the early stages of open relating are where pacing matters most. This is where mismatched desires, poorly negotiated boundaries, and emotional overwhelm can sneak in disguised as enthusiasm. One of the most common paper cuts in new polyamory is the pressure for more. More access, more dates, more sexual freedom, more experiences, more partners, more. It makes sense. Expansion is intoxicating. After years of monogamy or emotional containment, the idea of unrestrained exploration can feel like fresh air after being underwater for too long. But moving too fast or pushing a partner to move faster than they can regulate is one of the quickest ways to destabilize an otherwise healthy relationship. One of the best ways to protect your self-worth in pre-existing relationships when opening up is to recognize common pitfalls, those crunchy moments that can make open relating challenging, especially in the beginning. These are the things that you'll discuss with your therapist, the issues that you and your partner may initially argue about, and eventually the memories you'll look back on and laugh about years later, maybe. Paper cut 1, negotiating boundaries, the rush for more. One of the most significant areas where partners often falter is negotiating agreements and boundaries, particularly for events, dates, or parties. Boundaries are the scaffolding of open relating. They are the structure that make exploration safe. But many couples stumble early in negotiating boundaries from fear, don't go too far, fantasy, we'll get great at this instantly, or pressure, come on, it'll be fine. The result, agreements that feel restrictive, mismatched, or unclear, and that eventually collapse under emotional weight. When my husband and I first stepped into polyamory, we approached agreements very differently. He had blanket permission, something that felt appropriate for him because he was shy and unlikely to do things impulsively. I, on the other hand, needed more specific clarity. Who I was engaging with, in what context, under what emotional conditions. We began at the lowest common denominator, what felt safest for both of us. We went to parties together, we observed more than we participated at first, and we built comfort slowly. It worked, until it didn't. Even in the slow approach, the urge to push for more showed up quickly. Let's go to this event. I want to try this, but I'm ready for more. Or, why do we have to go so slow? It wasn't malicious, it was excitement. But the cumulative effect of these tiny pushes added up, creating tension that neither of us fully named until it spilled out sideways. The paper cut here isn't in wanting more, it's in pushing for more before the other person is ready. Desire without regulation becomes pressure, and pressure, repeated often enough, becomes resentment. The truth is, opening a relationship is not a race. It's a long-distance journey. Rushing to check experiences off the list doesn't make you better at poly. It just increases the likelihood of tripping over each other's nervous systems. Takeaway, go slow on purpose. Pace protects connection. Paper cut 2, breaking early agreements. Confusion, interpretation, and hurt. Early agreements are fragile. They're made when everyone is still figuring out what they're afraid of, what they desire, and what they can handle. They're often built on incomplete self-awareness, wishful thinking, or fear-based assumptions. And because they're fragile, the first cracks often come from misunderstandings rather than actual defiance. Consent isn't passive acceptance. It requires genuine alignment. When you agree to something that doesn't resonate with you, it's not an agreement. It's a rule, and that it's only a matter of time before you break that rule. Before we go further, there's an important distinction to name. A first-time misalignment, especially when an agreement was vague, assumed, or interpreted differently, is not a failure. It's information. Learning happens here. A paper cut forms when confusion repeats after clarity exists, when questions aren't asked, when discomfort isn't named, or when someone notices something feels off and chooses not to slow down. In other words, misalignment is part of the learning curve. Repetition without repair is what cuts. Which brings us to our next fuck up. The party agreement gone awry. Bobby and Kevin attended a play party with one very clear agreement: no penetrative sex with anyone else. For them, this was a grounding rule, a way to feel secure while stepping into something new. But halfway through the night, Kevin walked past the scene and saw Bobby in a strap-on experience with someone else. To him, that counted as penetrative sex. To Bobby, it didn't. Technically, she wasn't the one being penetrated. But instead of clarifying in the moment, Kevin swallowed his confusion and acted from hurt. Moments later, in a burst of emotion, he ended up having penetrative sex with someone else. By the end of the night, both partners had violated the agreement, each assuming a different definition of the rule that they created. No one was wrong about what the agreement meant. They simply meant different things. This is one of the easiest paper cuts to prevent and one of the hardest to repair. Early agreements require clarity, curiosity, and ongoing checking in. Without that, two people can walk into the exact same room with two completely different rule books, and neither person realizes it until someone feels betrayed. The takeaway is simple, even if the practice isn't. When something feels off, ask. Ask before acting. Ask before reacting. Ask even if you feel silly, especially if you feel silly. Clarity is far less awkward than repair. Takeaway, check in before it breaks, not after. Paper cut 3, the danger of micro secrets. Not all paper cuts come from what you do. Some come from what you don't do. Micro secrets, small omissions, half-truths, softened truths, selective details, often start with the best intentions. You don't want to upset your partner. You don't want to spark conflict. You don't want them to spiral or overthink. So you edit, you trim, you decide they don't need to know that part. They might seem like outright violations of agreements, but they might not seem like outright violations of agreements, but they can lead to misunderstandings and feelings of betrayal. But secrets don't stay small. They snowball. Fuck up, the dinner deception. Dean told his partner Des that he was going out to dinner with Allison. What he didn't mention was that dinner was takeout at her place, candles already lit, and with every intention of getting naked afterwards. She may have been naked when he arrived. One partner might rationalize these micro lies as harmless or even protective. However, secrets accumulate, creating a foundation of mistrust. He wasn't trying to cheat, he was trying to avoid conflict. He told himself, she'll freak out, she'll overthink it. It's basically the same thing. I'll tell her later. He meant well, but later never came. When Des inevitably learned the truth, because in polyamory someone always knows someone, they weren't hurt by the sex. They were hurt by the omission. They felt blindsided, disrespected, and excluded from a decision that directly affected their emotional safety. Dean wasn't trying to violate an agreement, but impact matters more than intent. But micro secrets still count as paper cuts, sometimes deeper ones than the actual sex. And the antidote is uncomfortable but effective. Tell the truth before your partner has to piece it together from context clues or third parties. Takeaway: avoiding discomfort by withholding truth creates more pain than honesty ever does. The larger pattern. Rush relating leads to crashing. Every story in this section comes back to one theme: excited people doing too much too fast with too little clarity. This is human nature. This is what happens when you open up too many doors at one time. But if you can slow down even slightly, you create room for everyone's nervous system and attachment system to settle, for real consent to take place, for curiosity to outweigh fear, and for love, not pressure, to drive the process. Exploration is beautiful. Expansion is thrilling. Newness lights up every corner of the brain. But open relating is sustainable only when desire and pacing stay in conversation with each other. When they don't, the crash landing is inevitable and usually preventable. Navigating these early stages of open relating, it's essential to foster a culture of ongoing communication. Whether it's through simple text updates during a date or candid conversation about feelings and desires, maintaining open lines of communication can significantly reduce misunderstandings and build trust. Remember, as you spread your wings in the realm of polyamory, it's perfectly normal to stumble and crash occasionally. These moments are part of your journey, leading to growth and deeper connections. Embrace them as learning opportunities and enjoy the adventure ahead. Takeaway: slow is sexy, slow is safe, slow works.